So James, I finally did it. I finally watched Titanic. For those who don't know, I had never seen Titanic.
Kind of strange.
Movie. It is kind of strange.
Yeah. Not because of taste or like a comment on your personality, but more that it's one of the biggest films
of all time.
Yeah.
I know. It's a little bit of context on why I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
So I do remember growing up seeing scenes and clips
Bet you did.
on TV. No, thank you, James. How dare you? Straight away, mine's in the gutter. I remember seeing it being on TV in sort of little pieces. And I've seen bits on YouTube and stuff like that, but I've never sat and watched the whole thing. I grew up in an anti-Titanic household. My parents were not Titanic
Flag
fans.
outside.
Yeah.
Your portraits of icebergs everywhere.
Iceberg was a hero.
Yeah.
No, my parents weren't fans of the film, particularly my dad, who found it insufferable and found it ridiculous and just over the top and all that stuff. So it was something we never watched.
Yeah.
And it's just become that thing that, because it's 3 hours, 15 minutes long, I never took myself around to watching. However, a thing that changed was that towards the end of last year, I discovered, or TikTok revealed to me, that I'm very much interested in maritime disasters.
And so what better than the most expensive recreation of all time?
TikTok was pushing to me the most niche reanimations of maritime disasters. I'm talking of like cargo ships that went down in the 70s.
Like, oh yeah, of course, the KN-59, 2004.
Oh, I see, yes. And why? Because someone left the aft door open or something like that. Ridiculous. And I think...
You know the opening scene in Titanic with the guy with the beard? It's like, so she's sitting on her ass. And the iceberg goes like...
That's me. And I just found that something I got some sort of morbid curiosity about.
Yeah.
I think it's because I don't go on ships often as a habit.
Oh, I'm many a ship,
You
man.
do. You've been cruised many times.
Yeah.
You love to go...
I do love to do
cruise.
the jobs, but I don't. It's always a job thing.
No, I was being selective. I was just like, I was about to say you love to go cruising, but that is something else.
Not for play, but for work. I'm very privileged to get to go and film and travel, do cruise stuff, which is fun. But yeah.
Anyway, so that was the back of my mind, and it was New Year's Day, and I had a big chunk of time to kill.
What do you need?
A little bit tired. Friends came over in the evening, and I thought, oh, what perfect. Sit on the sofa. It was also terrible weather here in the UK on New Year's Day. Than Titanic. There it is. Big TV.
So the context for my family, I have a sister who's 8 years older than me. Film 97, 98.
Yeah.
That came out for my oldest sister at like the perfect time. It was the biggest film ever. Leonardo DiCaprio just dropped dead gorgeous with the perfect haircut at the perfect time. And I really remember, I really remember like Natasha getting that VHS and it was like, oh my God, now I can watch it as many times as I want. It's one of the first ever sex scenes I think I saw on television because I really remember like it was being played at home and the car scene was coming up and it was very much like James is in the room and I was like,
you don't see much though. Not that
no, but even still, it's like you don't see much, but it's just sexual,
boobs.
and the boobs, and it was like, oh, James is watching this. Is that okay? And I was like, watching what? What can't I watch? Yeah. And I remember just like seeing that scene. And then for a really long time, me and my other sister in cars would recreate the hand swipe on the movie. So there was this condensation, like she reaches out and does that thing. Me and my sister, when we were really young, would do that Titanic thing on the car window. But anyway, I very much enjoyed it. I remember rewatching it, I want to say, in my early mid-20s. And I was like, this still slaps. I think it's great. It's dramatic and it's long, but I absolutely loved it. And it got, and I watched the end and I was like, this made me weep like a baby. But I'm curious to see how you got on with it.
So it's really interesting, actually. So I'm going into it. I had a little bit of a cynical hat on.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, I'm open-minded.
It's very easy to watch.
And it was indeed. So first of all, I did have a couple of breaks in between, just to get, which you needed. It's a long film. On the whole, it's a good movie. Yeah. I'm actually surprised to say you don't understand the rhetoric.
Spoilers for Titanic, by the way. I'm sorry if you haven't seen.
The anti-Titanic rhetoric that I grew up with was just in my ears, and it's just gone. So, a film of two halves, as we know.
Literally.
The first half, I will say that, yes, it absolutely has cheesy dialogue and really
poor guy,
the
rich
dolphins jumping at all that stuff in the sunset. But what I really appreciated from that first half and what I was getting, because basically what I wanted to really understand was like, this is one of the biggest films of all time. Yeah. I want to connect with it. I want to see what other people saw in it. I want to feel that same thing. And what it is big, old school Hollywood filmmaking, sweeping scores, massive visuals, impressive romance. It's like Gone with the Wind. It's huge, epic. old school filmmaking set in a period
Drama,
piece,
stakes.
tragedy. And in that first half, I was really getting that. I was like, oh yeah, it's the romance is kind of silly, and some of the dialogue is a little bit wonky, but whatever, because it is like, no, don't do that. No, it's like
They've got you trapped, Rose.
Yeah.
And that fire inside you, it's gonna burn out.
Which is silly, but it's so well done, and I was swept up in it. I was like, this is incredibly watchable, and you do get invested. The first shot of Kate Winslet getting out of the car with the hat and the pinstripe suit, it also reminded me. I was like, this is a film by James Cameron, who does know how to make a movie, and everything about it is so cinematic. Like, so when she first gets out of the cab, with the costume design, with the way she looks up, it's just
and
so
then in
well
contrast
executed.
with Leonardo DiCaprio running, barely make it on. The gap is bridging between them. So good.
And I was like, I get it. This is real cinema magic. This is what you draw all the punters in and get us all together, get us to sink our teeth into it. It really reminded me of like those old Hollywood epics. And then the second half, when the ship hits the iceberg, I thought was first of all technically so impressive, really impressive. Obviously, you have a little bit of CGI here and there, but like the technical still the ship in the warehouse on the
Deck
water
really fucked up in the crow's nest, didn't they?
Yeah. Actually, no. It's Jack and Rose who distract them a little bit. Actually.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
who walk
that's
by,
funny.
they're like, oh, let's have a look at that. It's also. Well, actually, there's so I went on to a big deep dive afterwards, but it was great. But what I respected the technical ability, but the whole thing was so well executed. But more importantly, I was like, it's not just that it's cinematic in the second half. I was like, it's really, really distressing and really, really horrifying. And there was actually a bit where, I mean, obviously there are a lot of obstacles they put in their way for the film, but like the bit where they're stuck behind the grate and the guy tries to get the key to open, he drops the key, and it was
like, I'm sorry, I can't.
And the water's filling up, and I actually said
trying
to
to get the
Anna,
key
I was
in
like,
the
oh,
lock.
I can't watch this. It's actually so uncomfortable and so tense and so horrible. And the thing is like, it was a real tragedy, and that particularly in that last third as well, you're just watching hundreds and hundreds of people die, and it's so terrifying.
To me, it's
really
the moment,
terrifying.
there's people who are like trying to escape, jump, find a boat,
Yeah.
and then there's other people. There's that moment when they cut to the old married couple who just decide to hold each other in bed. The mother with the two children who he's seen before, and she's just reading a story to them, and it's heartbreaking.
Oh, it's really tough, and those final bits where the ship is really right up
then
there.
it goes, and then in the moment when it's gone from the surface, and you're now just in the dark, black,
Darkness.
empty, wet, cold void.
And it's really, really terrifying. That's what really, really surprised me in that. And the sense of drama in that second half. And oh my God, something. And there's a bit where Billy Zane's like, things are starting to fall apart. And like, yeah, you really get this sense of chaos on the deck of the ship as it started to sink further and further. People throwing furniture off, people just scrabbling, punching each other.
I have a child.
Yeah, she's all I have in the world. It's I was really impressed by that.
Yeah.
And I did feel emotionally hit by the end, of course.
When she passes and she goes through to the reception
Oh, yeah.
area, and everyone she knows and loves who died is there.
That's the
He
thing.
exists now only in my memory, and then she marries. I love it.
I didn't
love
know
that
she
scene.
croaked at the end of the film, the old lady in her
of
sleep. But
course,
yeah, she walks into everyone that
She
dies
throws
is there.
She throws the diamond back into the ocean.
And they welcome her. Brilliant.
To me, the peak of the drama of like when you're just totally in for that film is Cal's like, get in the lifeboat, Rose.
Yeah.
And Rose is there, and she's like, when she's looking at him, the best shot of the film is the fireworks going behind Leonardo DiCaprio's face, and she decides to jump, and the music swells, and she would rather die and be with him for a few more hours than go and be alive and back to her life. And I just thought that is the ultimate romantic gesture. It's like, you're so stupid, Rose. You jump, I jump, remember? Loved it. And they were just like, there forever on.
I was annoyed at the film in a way that was swept. I was mad at the film for having Jack die. I was mad at it, but even though
For like the bloody door.
No, they couldn't have fit any more people on the door. Okay,
I've always kind of agreed that. Like, he tried to get on it and it capsized.
It's the weight. It's not necessarily about the spaces. I agree. And I'm like, oh, why did he have to? And like, the cruelty of the film is not only that he does, but basically all the poor people die. And all the rich. I was waiting for Billy Zane to die. Why did they have to kill the Italian guy as well? Like,
Fabrizio.
Yeah, all of them. You know all their names. They exist now only in memory. Yeah. But they, it's that cruelty again. All the poor people died, and the rich people get away with it. And it's, honestly, I was really swept up. I did find it an emotional wallop, and it got to the end. And I was like, oh, I need to. I was so glad we were going out to pick up some friends because we needed to break the space because we just watched a horrible, horrible disaster. It is a proper disaster movie. And I came away thinking, I so understand why that was such a big hit. Massive. Why that was such a monstrous hit and why people got swept up and why people went to the cinema to see it 5 times. You can't stop thinking about it. Yes, it's like it's the logic of the disaster. What would you have done? All the fear.
You partner up the real life logistics of trying to escape a sinking ship where water levels are rising, and you pair that with the romantic drama.
Yeah.
It's like he's tied to handcuffs and everything.
Totally.
He's like, do some target practice.
Yeah.
Now hit the same spot again.
Yeah.
It's like you pair the drama, like you've got to save him, you've got to escape. There's a guy chasing you down with a gun. Brilliant.
And I think that it's the
hubris of the wealthy as well.
The small ensemble it creates of all the little characters, which is why that shot at the end is so great because of all the small characters that you've seen throughout. The guy with the daughter, her maid, who's just like in one shot, like and it's small things like seeing one of the engineers who's in the bow of the ship who actually survives. You see him like light a cigarette on deck, and you're seeing all these individual faces and characters.
What are you doing down here? You shouldn't be down here.
He makes it.
Yeah.
But that's
Kathy Burke's character, who's new money, who like really helps.
Kathy. No,
Kathy.
It's not Kathy.
Who is it?
It's not Kathy. I know exactly. But now, because you said that, you pushed the name out of my head. Misery. Come on. What's her name?
Kathy Bates.
Thank you.
Kathy Bates' character who comes from who comes from new money, who's not resistant of Leonardo DiCaprio.
God almighty.
You realize you're going into the snake pit?
Yeah.
And she's like, start from the outside, work your way in.
Yeah. And it looks gorgeous, and it's a proper big fat melodrama, and I have time for it. I like it. And I'm sorry that I never saw it.
He's like, interesting that you had the time to remove your boots and trousers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's such a shit. And then when the ship breaks in half,
and he snaps in the middle. Yeah, and the steam thing that like, boom.
That kills Fabrizio.
Yes, that kills Fabrizio, yes.
Oh, God.
And people, when the Titanic is way up on its end, people are jumping and smacking into the propellers.
Yeah. And then the thing falls again on them.
And those two are the last people to be on the Titanic, because they go right to the very back and hold the rails.
It's them and one guy.
Yeah.
It's the guy who has the whiskey. It's the old guy all in white, and they go down together.
That's where we first met. I always love that quote. It's like, it's going to be cold. And she's like, how cold? And he's like, freezing. Couple of degrees over, it hits you like 1,000 knives all over your body.
Which is an actual quote from Lightoller, who was the most senior officer to survive. He was the second officer. He survived the Titanic. It was what he described the ice water as being like. James, I did my Wikipedia deep dive after. Thank you very much.
When I did my first ever transatlantic on day 3, they do a ceremonial honk when you pass over the the wreckage of the Titanic, which is always fun, but sort of like nice,
interesting.
Yeah,
and also in the film, even though when the ship is gone, like that's lighter than it would have been.
Yeah,
it would have been pitch black, absolutely freezing. Couldn't see barely in front of you.
And the footage in the beginning is real. They went down to get footage of the
Some
Titanic.
of it's real.
So, yeah, so when they're inside the studio, that's a studio, but they did shoot the wreckage of the Titanic, which is cool.
It's a bit eerie now because Bill Paxton's like, one pinprick here, we'll all be gone in 0.2 milliseconds. And you're like,
there she is. The wreckage of the Titanic.
Yeah.
Great Bill Paxton.
Oh, yeah, Bill Paxton looking great. And so there you go. I really enjoyed it. A thumbs up from me. A solid film. I would happily watch it again. It does kind of suck you in. I see it, I recognize it and respect it as a momentous movie.
I never thought when I revisited it in my 20s it would have that profound effect of like still really working, even though I knew all the beats were coming, and I was like, no, this totally works. Totally works.
First half of the film, it's a lovely film. It's a lovely romance.
Yeah.
If you just watch it,
they're in love.
Just before the iceberg hits, and they go on deck and they're spinning around going, end of movie.
Yeah.
Lovely little movie. And then it becomes a horrifying disaster.
Yeah. You want to go to a real party? Are you like are the lifeboats seated according to class? Oh mother. Yeah. Shut up. Half the people on the ship are going to die.
You can't do that. That's White Star Line property.
Women and children only.
No, order. I will have order, I say.
Order.
That was Titanic. I watched it for the first time. A great time to recollect such a famous movie.
And a great time of year to watch it at Christmas when
it's icy.
You have the time.
And you have the time.